Hey, good morning, Daily Dosers. My name is Austin Payne, and I'm one of the high school pastors on the Vista campus. And today we're continuing in 1 Peter chapter 5, starting in verse 6. And it says this: "Humble yourselves, therefore, under God's mighty hand, that he may lift you up in due time. Cast all your anxiety on him, because he cares for you." I think the first thing that stands out to me here is that phrase, humble yourselves. And I think for me, growing up and still to this day, there's this almost this unreachableness of the word humility, of something that I don't think I'm ever going to wake up and be handed a plaque that says, "Here's your humble award." You know, you've arrived. You're humble. It's official, and it's always seemed like this thing that was unattainable, and I couldn't reach it. And growing up playing sports and doing, whether it was public speaking or school or whatever it was this struggle with pride and arrogance of, man, I don't want to be that. I don't want to be prideful. I don't want to come across as arrogant. And so I want to be humble. And so when he says, humble yourselves, the first thing that pops into my mind is that's difficult. And yet I'm reminded of this quote by C.S. Lewis that says, humility is not thinking less of yourself. It's simply thinking of yourself less. And I'm challenged with that as oftentimes this humility seems like this false humility sometimes of you're complimented or you win an award or whatever it may be, and it's, oh, well, it wasn't me, it wasn't that great, and it comes across as this false humility. Really, we've all seen that. And yet C.S. Lewis's challenge is don't think less of yourself, don't belittle yourself, simply think about yourself less. I don't know about you, but for me, I feel like I'm the main character of the story most days. I wake up thinking about myself, and throughout the day, I kind of find myself thinking about me a lot. And this challenge to humble myself, therefore, under God's mighty hand, it's a shift of perspective to understand that his mighty hand is what I'm able to humble myself under, because he's greater than I am. And I can have this mindset of, if I think about myself less, the only way I can do that is by thinking about him more. And as I have that perspective, I'm thinking about me less, I'm thinking about him more, I'm able to cast all my anxiety on him, knowing that he cares for me. See, I walk through life, and whether this is something that your anxiety and depression and this stressed outness is something that I struggle with every single day, or it's something that just pokes up its head every once in a while, the challenge here is to not ignore that anxiety or to ignore that stress and to just brush it off, but absolutely to seek help with that and to find counseling and to come and to bring that to other people. But first and foremost, that we would cast that upon God in our humility, understanding I can't handle this alone, and this doesn't have to be about me. Just as much as the person that walks around with their chest puffed out and their shoulders back and their chin held high comes across as arrogance, just as much Scripture says the person that is extremely self-conscious, that walks into a room and their first thought is that, what's everybody thinking about me, and am I funny enough, am I dressed well enough, or whatever it may be, that self-consciousness comes across as pride. And so the challenge to humble myself is simply think more about God and think less about me. And while I'm doing that, having the proper perspective of under his mighty hand, I'm able to recognize my anxiety and recognize the stress and recognize the self-consciousness and cast that upon him, knowing that in his care, he can handle it. Knowing that as I recognize his strength, his power, his might, and I become not the main character, but understanding that I exist to bring him glory, I'm able to have that freedom and that peace by saying, God, I got to put this on you. I'm going to find help, absolutely. But first and foremost, I'm going to cast this upon you. Thanks to Daily Dosers. We'll see you tomorrow.